Welcome into Unbreakable, a mental wealth podcast with Jay Glazer. I'm Jay Glazer. Really excited for today's guest. He has been through it. He's been successful. Then he was through it again. Then he was through it again. And there's so much we can learn from him. And he's recreated himself over and over and over. But before I get to him, if you're like many people, you may be surprised to learn that 1 in 5 adults in this country experienced mental illness last year. Yet far too many fail to receive the support they need. Carolyn Behavioral Health is doing something about it. They understand that behavioral health is a key part of whole health, delivering compassionate care that treats physical, mental, emotional, and social needs in tandem. Carolyn Behavioral Health, raising the quality of life through empathy and action. All right, welcome into Unbreakable, a mental wealth podcast with Jay Glazer. And what I try to do is bring people on here who've been through some things, who've been through some shit before. But when I get a bald guy on here who kind of looks like me, bald is beautiful, then I feel even more empowered. And with that, I want to welcome in, Rex Chapman, who played in the NBA, successful college career. Then he became a very successful Twitter influencer, which you probably never thought that would happen in your life. Nope. And has just come out with a book. It's hard for me to live with me. So, Rex has done a lot of the things that I've done also. He's done it more, I think, in the addiction world, but he's done a lot of mental health stuff. I've done a lot of mental health stuff. And I think we both can agree that, man, the more we could build our mental health, it leads to mental wealth. And that's where this world needs to go.
Man, Jay, first, thanks for having me. And I want to let you know, I think people have to be inspired by what you're doing and the way that you speak openly about mental health. I kind of did it because everything just went to hell in my life, and you're doing it differently. And I just, and you're on the NFL, and a lot of people that watch the NFL, watch sports religiously, we didn't have men that talked about this when we were kids on TV. We just didn't. That was taboo. That wasn't macho, blah, blah, blah. So kudos to you, and please keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. Where do you think that when you say I do it differently, what?
I think that it's part of who you are, man. Like you own it. You have owned it, and you have made it. You're making it by the day more and more. You're normalizing it to where, people, men who watch football, who watch sports, watch you, and they go, man, I have those same thoughts. I have those same struggles. It's good to know that other people do too, because normally we see people on TV and we think those guys have it all: money, fame, everything. Everything is great with them. That ain't the case.
Yeah, we had it all. That means issues also.
That's right.
But you're doing the same thing, Matt, because you've been through a lot in your life. And look, all I try to do with coming out and talking about mental health is just give it words, because we didn't really have the words except when you sat in a therapist's office. But that's not layman's terms. That's not everyday words, right? So I just wanted to give it words so we could start having that conversation and, take the stigma away. Like for me, my best mental health sessions are in a cage with a Randy Couture or Chuck Liddell, where we're crying at each other after practice. So I figured then, well, no one's questioning our manhood for crying at each other, and we got to show others. But it made us so much closer together. But you also have made the jump and said, you're in a macho sport, you're playing basketball, and you've had all these issues, whether it's addiction to gambling or opioids, whatever. And, you got to use your pain to help others through theirs.
Yeah. What
was your kind of aha moment that you were able to do that? And you know what? I want you to answer that, but I also need you to go back and tell our listeners what you've been through and your story.
Yeah. So I grew up playing basketball from the time I could remember. I played football and swam and played Little League and played all the sports. I was a really good athlete. By the time I got to high school, or my last couple years in high school, I was probably the best player in our state of Kentucky. I was top, 1, 2, or 3 rated high school player in the country, McDonald's All-American team, parade teams, all of that stuff. I went to the University of Kentucky, was an All-American there for 2 years. And then I entered the draft and was the eighth pick, the first pick of the Charlotte Hornets franchise. Played there for 3 years in Washington with the Bullets, a year in Miami with the Heat, and my last 5 years with the Phoenix Suns. When I retired, I had three surgeries. Well, I had seven surgeries my last 3 years of playing. And when I had a routine appendectomy in the year 2000, and a doctor gave me a prescription for a month for OxyContin. And I took that OxyContin, and in 2 days, I knew I was in love. It was the greatest thing I'd ever had. I'd always had social anxiety. I'd always suffered from depression. I just was too afraid to go get medicated for it because I was still playing ball, and I didn't know how that would interact with my reaction, all the crazy things that athletes think. So I took that medicine, and immediately I felt like a different person. I felt funnier, smarter, better dad, better husband, all of it. Not realizing I'm
on the
just
way up.
Self-medicating. Yes.
Yeah.
And
I had the same.
Yeah.
I used to abuse Vicodin for my anxiety
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, it was like an instant
Yeah.
instant headache reliever. Vicodin was my jam.
And
it
you
was
like that
OxyContin.
person, and that
Yes.
person kind of has no fear. But the come down is you're such an asshole to people, and also I would drink and take Vicodin.
Yeah, well,
And
that's the only reason I'm not that I'm alive. It's because I didn't drink during that time.
Yeah.
But
wasn't
I'm with
good
you.
for
It was
me
very,
keeping my hands to myself.
you know what? Yeah. And you know what I realized too very quickly. I remember when I first started taking the OxyContin, and I'm just not, again, social awkwardness and social anxiety my whole life. If I know you, no problem. If I don't know you and you come up to me, also, I don't want to ruin your interaction with me because, when I took that medicine, come on.
You're the life of the
I'm
party.
the nicest guy in the world.
Me too.
I'm not even watching what I was there to watch. Me and you are talking now. I felt like that's what normal people do.
Right.
And it made me like I felt normal, what I thought was normal. And before I knew it, 18 months had passed. Danny Ainge is telling me, Rex, you got to look at yourself. You're a mess. You've got to go to rehab. I was taking about 50 pills a day, 40.
Holy shit.
40 Vicodin, 10 OxyContin.
Oh my God. No, I didn't get to that.
No, I know. And see, that's why I say if I'd been drinking, I would be dead, So, but this was, and I just chewed them up.
The drinking got me, the drinking with the Vicodin, you're right. It got me for a while.
The alcohol sets off the Vicodin. I mean, in a weird way.
Well, I was good for a while. So you come up, and you're right. I get real bad social anxiety, and people didn't know. And I'm supposed to be the Glaze, this character, that I created on TV to hide it. So I'd be good on the way up, but on the way down, I'll get real short and real step. And I said I wasn't good to keep my hands to myself. I would fucking grab dudes by the throat. I would snatch cats, and somebody would piss me off. And next thing you know, man, I'm wrestling. You're like, it wasn't good. And my friends would have to keep me out of it. And even that, I thought was, well, it's part of my brand. I'm hosting the UFC and the Pride Fighting Championships, and training all these football players. And no, that's not who I wanted to be.
Good for you, man. I mean, because that's just, I get it. And I have to do it to myself at times because I am from Kentucky, and I still have this much amount of redneck in me. And if like in the wrong, if I put myself in the wrong spot, I'll react. I'll say something to somebody, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead. So continue. So then you got hooked on Vicodin.
I got hooked on. Yeah. And
that's a lot.
Before I knew it, I was, in rehab. I was out of rehab, but I was back taking Vicodin, went back into rehab a couple years later. Then when I got out, I was on Suboxone, and I was on Suboxone for about 10 years, and you shouldn't be on that.
Which for people who don't know what that is, it's to prevent you from taking the drugs that he's talking about.
Right. And when I got into rehab the last time, I realized there were people in there who were shooting Suboxone. They were melting the strips and injecting them. So it's a whole. So when I went to rehab that last time, I was arrested. I was arrested for shoplifting. And when I say that, I don't want to just skim by it.
Yeah.
I had, made $40 million playing basketball. Long time thoroughbred horse racing gambler since I was a child. I used to go with my dad to the track and I could read a racing form before I could read a newspaper. So I played horses from the time I got to college until I got arrested. And by the time I got arrested, I was pretty messed up with the Suboxone, and I had been stealing to support my drug and gambling habit.
Wow.
And
so you were shoplifting to steal.
I was shoplifting in an Apple
habit.
store. Yeah, in an Apple store.
Wow.
And when I have to articulate it out loud, it's still just a punch in the gut because I have to reconcile that it was me that did it. Anyway, so I went to.
Hey, you got to be proud of your scars. This is your experiences.
Yeah.
If you didn't have these experiences, you couldn't help others with theirs. So be proud that you went through this shit.
Thanks, man. So at that point, my ex-wife and I, and she's amazing. We were married for 20 years. We have 4 children, 31 to 22. A boy who works for the Phoenix Suns. He's on Frank Vogel's staff with the Suns, and 3 girls, all in education. My ex-wife's a teacher. But they were at the time were 20 to 10. And, I had been a real drug addict for all of the little girls' lives. So I went to rehab. My sister scooped me up, put me in rehab in Louisville, Kentucky. And I remember getting there, and I'd been in rehab before, and I felt toxic. I felt, it was very public. And I just remember getting in my room there and taking a big sigh of relief and having a thought of, okay, this is where I need to be. And for whatever reason, that stint, propelled me to, once I got out of detox, 7 days of just hell, I started trying to dig into, what had landed me there and, kind of why I did the things that I've done my whole life. So that's when I think the real work started.
So I'm going to ask you a deeper question here.
Sure.
Because again, I like to really give everything words so we hear it so others don't feel so alone. I've never been through detox because I didn't have that level. What does detox feel like?
Oof, man. So the first time I got to detox, I was taking OxyContin. And I remember, and again, this is right when OxyContin came out.
Yeah.
And I was in the detox area of rehab, which is more like a hospital wing.
Right.
And they were doing a shift change. And one of the nurses was talking to the other nurse. And one of them said, okay, what's he in for? Talking about me. And she said, he's in for OxyContin. And the other one went, oh boy. And she said, yeah, just like heroin, 7 days of hell.
Whoa.
Well, I just remember going, heroin? Wait, what? And not realizing, yeah, this is synthetic heroin. This is, and I've not come off of heroin before, but I've come off OxyContin and I've come off Vicodin, massive amounts of Vicodin, and it's no damn joke. So it's throwing up. It's throwing up. It's hot and cold. Most of the time, I remember being in my underwear and being hot, cold, back and forth from the bed to the bathroom, and nurses coming in what seems like every 2 minutes, but it's probably every hour or so. It's just hellish. And I remember being done with detox that last time. And I talk about this in the book. I'd had friends coming to visit because I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I hadn't been able to show any emotion or anything. I was just so numb from all the pain medicine, and then out of detox, I was still kind of numb. And Rick Pitino, who I'm sure you know, famous basketball coach, he was coaching at Louisville at the time, and somebody told me I had a visitor, and Rick and another friend of mine, Vinny Tatum, who worked with Rick, were there to see me. And I saw them and I just started bawling, crying, and saying I'm toxic. And and Rick, I've known him for so long. He just looked at me and said, Rex, listen, can I cuss on here?
Fuck yeah, it's my
Okay.
podcast.
All right.
So, how well do you know me? Shit.
Well, I know, but I did this to Dan Patrick the other day and realized we were on Peacock. So Rick said, Rex, listen, man, you're going to eat a lot of shit for a while. You just are. And he said, and at first it's going to feel like a big beach ball sized ball of shit. And he said, if you do the next right thing, I promise you that beach ball is going to turn into the size of a basketball, and then do the next right thing, and then a softball, and then a baseball, and then a ping pong ball, and finally it'll be a pebble at some point if you just keep doing it. And for whatever reason, through all the tears and the feeling sorry for myself and all of that, it resonated. And Rick's been through some stuff, so I knew it was coming from a place of honesty. He didn't have to be there. He just showed up. He just showed up at rehab. It meant something to me. And then when people start doing that, they're putting faith in you, and you don't want to let them down. And I had so many people that really, believed enough in me to hang in there with me.
I think this is a real important thing for people to hear. And first of all, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing all that, because I think the more people hear it from someone that we put in words and they don't feel as alone,
right?
They'll go, okay, that's what it's like. Okay, now I have a
right.
Like, you're giving people a little roadmap. This is what it's going to be like. This is what you can expect. So that's fantastic. But I think what I really want people to get from this, and you got for it, when we struggle, and even in our darkest moments, I just talked to a friend of mine about this. He's going through something, and he feels so ashamed for what he did. And I feel a lot of shame. But instead of feeling shame, like, people want the best for us. No matter how much we fuck people over, or we did this, that they just want the best for us. They want to see us succeed. They want to see a comeback story, right? No one's cut me off forever.
Yeah.
Saying, well, you did this, then that, right? Everybody wants to forgive and go, yes, I'm rooting for you right now. Same. Everybody.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. I had so many, and I had so many trust issues from being a kid and being known, and that knowing that other people are going through stuff is, and I was so proud too. I wouldn't, somebody asked me how I was doing. I could be doing horribly and be like, I'm doing great. How are you? Just deflect and turn it around on someone else.
Tell me how after this. So now, look, obviously I knew you from basketball more than anything. But then all of a sudden I see fucking Rex Chapman with all these feel-good videos and shit on Twitter, which, by the way, I'm always telling people, get the fuck off social media.
Yeah.
Because that's crushing us. But you then turned it around and something, all these feel-good moments. And then you kind of got dragged in the political end of it and all this shit. But tell me, well, A, how that just came about. B, the best part of it. But C, like with me, I have a hard time. Like, I don't break minute by minute breaking news anymore, because I don't like looking at my fucking Twitter every 2 seconds and tell me how fat my head looks, or how I'm full of shit with this or that, whatever, the spam, the just the hate people spew. My feelings are too much. I'm not up for that shit.
Right. I don't know how it really came about. I do. I was watching a video one day on Twitter, and I saw a dolphin jump up out of the water and hit a guy on a paddleboard in the chest. And I said to myself, that's a fucking charge. And so I tweeted it out there. I figured only basketball people would know what the hell I was talking about. And it kind of took off, and people started sending me videos. And I'm not the feel good video kind of guy. I'm not a feel good kind of guy anyway. So I'm trying to trick myself like everyone else into getting through the day. And people started sending me heartwarming videos and dog videos, and I'd put those out. And pretty soon people started going to my stupid channel for videos. So that's how that happened. I don't, it's pretty weird, because now I run into as many people who know me from
Right.
social media than I do from basketball.
So do you read your mentions, or or do you have somebody else who does it now?
Yeah, I don't really. I think I've put enough what do you modifications on the thing that I don't see a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I don't want to
Okay.
do that because it really can drag you down into a hole. I don't know how professional athletes do it in this climate
Either do I.
because we used to just, if you didn't read the newspaper, that takes and if you didn't listen to sports radio, which was hard to do,
Yep.
even
Yep.
even if you didn't want to, because, oh shit, these people are talking about me. I need to know. And a lot of the time it was, that was new when we were growing up.
Right.
Sports radio, talk radio.
Yep.
We could avoid it. These players cannot avoid the hatred that is spewed at them daily. And every player has it. There's LeBron hate. People hate LeBron James.
Yeah.
But there are people that, hate Giannis. They hate Wemby. They hate,
If you cure cancer, they'll go, oh, way to brag.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Big deal.
Yeah. Hey, you should have done this years ago before my mom died. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
nice flex.
Yeah. Right. And I'm like, look, I tell people, and I tell the players, because players, they do, like, especially today, they finish practice, finish game, boom, right over to their locker. And I'm like, and everyone's voice on Twitter, it carries the same weight. It could be some fucking 9-year-old kid in his mom's basement, but you think it's this 34-year-old executive who has a line to your bosses, and they don't. Right. And look, when I grew up in the Jersey Shore, you got your ass kicked in the Jersey Shore growing up. It fucking sucked for a month. But now we get our ass kicked every second on this. So we've got to be able to, somehow be able to separate the two. But man, we don't. And it's interesting too. Again, I have the social anxiety already, and I already have an itchy trigger finger, fist finger, if you will. And you do too. Yeah. I started viewing people as those who tweet at you in a hateful manner. And I didn't want to do that because I do want to love people and like people.
Right.
But what I did realize recently, in all the years I've gotten, listen, when you host the UFC like I did, those fans, they will fucking cut you down. Yeah. Right? And I've had a couple fights, and they're like, what does this fat fucker know about fighting and shit? I did it before everybody. Before anybody in the NFL ever did it, I did it, and just murdering me. And then football fans, if you say something, a breaking news story about their team that they don't like, they act like I'm the one who's trying to take their team down. It got shit to do with me, right?
It's crazy.
So I've had one time somebody come over to me. It's just once. But my point is, for the most part, no one ever walks over to you and says to you,
that's right,
the way they tweet things at you. And that took me a while to get reckoning with.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same. I get people that say stuff all the time. And not long ago in Kentucky, a guy an older man came up to me. I was at a gas station, and he said to me, if you thought the way it was, I think this was more politically kind of motivated. He said, if you thought more like the rest of us, your life would have been a whole lot easier. I wanted to say something to him, but I didn't. He walks away, and he turns around and says to me, we going to beat Bama this weekend?
Right.
And so, he's a fan. Yeah. I could have been, I guess I probably would have been justified in saying something. But he just really wanted an interaction. And it was okay. But those types of things happen. And they happen because they see us on TV.
Yeah, and on Twitter, and they learn.
Twitter,
So my one interaction like that, so I'm saying one out of millions, is some guy comes over to me. I'm in Arizona a couple of years ago. This guy, my friend's bar, has a place called Bottle Blonde downtown. My friend Charlie Brooks, and hang with him. And I told Charlie, I said, hey, man, just kind of keep me out of the crowd. I'm probably not too great with a bunch of drunken cats, and
good for you. That's good awareness.
One guy gets through, and he says, hey, Jay Glazer, UFC fucking sucks. I said, okay. Like, first of all, why would you ever go to a guy, right? It's part of, mixed martial arts and lead with that. But then I said, okay. And I turned around and he goes, hey, when do you think Conor McGregor's coming back to fight? And I said, what do you care? You just said UFC fucking sucks. And he goes, well, I just wanted to talk to you. I didn't know how else to start the conversation. I'm like, so you start with that?
Yeah. That's your lead?
Right? Like, and that's the problem. Like, people don't learn from Twitter how to talk to people. View us as your friend. But how would you, or your your brother or your mom or
Yeah.
your dad, and or
Your
and
boy. Yeah.
your boy, and in a respectful manner, view us in a way of like, man, this dude needs some love right now. That's it. Don't come to us with
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's
Right.
unreal.
It
Tell
is.
me, tell me about your book. How you got your process of doing that. Did you do it to be cathartic for you? Did you do it to be of service? And tell me
I
what you
think
loved about it.
I think all of it, and I'm not sure I loved any of it.
Really?
It was really hard. Seth
Yeah.
Davis, who did most of the
That's a
heavy
great
lifting,
guy.
Seth's a great guy, and I've known Seth for years. And had he not asked me to do it, probably wouldn't have done it.
Hmm.
We started around the beginning of the pandemic, and about a year into it, Seth hit me one day and said, "Hey, listen, I've got kind of a time sensitive book that I could really dig in on for like 6 months. Can we push your thing back?" I said, "Fucking right. I hate talking about this shit." And I said, "What do you got going on?" And he said, "Well, it's a book with Sister Jean." And Sister Jean is a basketball fan who's 104 years old, a nun who's 104 years old. And I said to Seth, "Oh, Seth, that's really sweet that you think I'm going to outlive Sister Jean."
That's fantastic.
So, but then, about okay, so when I was a high schooler, 15, 16, 17 years old, my first girlfriend, first love, a girl named Shawn Higgs, and her brother Mark Higgs played in the NFL. He played at University of Kentucky, played for the Dolphins, with Dan Marino and those guys. He was a running back. Shawn's black, I'm white. First, it was our first love. Shawn also went to the University of Kentucky. People in Kentucky did not like us dating. We kind of hid it from people in high school, but she went to Kentucky and I went to Kentucky. We're the same grade, and we just assumed we would be able to be boyfriend and girlfriend publicly there. Well, that was not something that the higher ups at the university were going to allow. And they repeatedly, let me know that if I'm going to see her, then I need to do it at nighttime. Meanwhile, me and her brother are, and every kid,
this ain't that long ago. Like, geez.
No, it's not. And so I was told, if I'm going to see her at night, don't be public. Well, I'm 18, 19 years old. I sat there and took it, and I knew I was going to have to tell her. I told her, and I remember just feeling like the biggest piece of shit in the world. And she's heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. And the next morning, Jay,
by the way, real quick, you're only 18 or 19. Like, your brain isn't developed enough to handle things like that. Even though you're a college player on TV, people think you're an adult, and you're not.
And everything is going fine for me basketball wise. I'm that's not an issue. But I woke up the next morning and I couldn't move. My heart was racing. I was having tough time breathing, and I could not move my arms off of my chest. I had them wrapped around me as tight as I could, and I yelled out to my roommate, Reggie Hansen, go get Dwayne Casey, who's one of our assistants. I said, I need to go to the hospital. I don't know what's wrong. Reggie popped up. He came back. I told them I needed to go to the hospital. I could hear them talking like, what's wrong with him? If we take him to the hospital, what's the media going to say? Why are we going to say he's there? Their answer was to go get my girlfriend across the street, the one who I'm being discouraged from seeing. And they took us to a booster's house, who I love, Don and Linda Johnson, and who knew about Shawn and I. Older white couple, they didn't give a shit. I stayed with them for 2 days with Shawn. I got over it. It was for sure a panic attack. I thought it was like I'd never heard
like a heart attack.
I felt like I'd only heard of something like, well, she had a nervous breakdown. That's what I felt like I was having, and there was no terminology for it. But I felt like I was crazy, like I was going crazy. And I got over it in 2 days, and I forgot about it. My whole life, I forgot about it. Coaches never brought it up again. Writing this book, I remembered it. And about 6 months ago, finishing the book, I had another panic attack. Wow. Never had one in my life since, before or after. And fortunately, my girlfriend, Whitney Lawson, was there, took great care of me for 2-3 days, and I started rebounding from it.
Mm.
There's just, I guess, a lot of things that you can push away,
Yeah.
and things that are hurtful that you just don't. I was very young, and I was very angry and sad, and I was already starting to show signs of clinical depression at that point, but nobody really talked about that stuff.
One thing you now know is that, and for people to hear, when you have a panic attack like that, you're safe. That's the first thing I tell myself.
Oh, good.
So, right.
I've never heard that. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're safe.
Okay.
So just so you know,
Okay.
my first panic attack was on air on Fox. I was in an
Ugh.
empty Raiders stadium. It was nobody but me and a cameraman. Nothing else.
Oh,
And I was
God.
doing a live hit from an empty Raiders stadium. And all of a sudden, my heart started racing. My eyes started shaking. I started sweating. My hands start shaking like crazy. And the walls start caving in. I'm like, holy fuck, I'm having a heart attack on the air. And now I call it wrestling with my abuser. I talk to it. I try and calm it down as I'm going. Well, unfortunately for me, it became habitual. Every time I have ever done something on air, even scripted, when I did Ballers, when I know they can go cut, it's the first thing I do. And one thing I had to learn is I'm safe. So I've had it from 2005 on. I've never passed out. I've never died. Nothing's happened. And I learned these little things I could deal with. The quicker I can get a laugh out, the better it goes away.
Yeah.
But immediately tell yourself, I am safe. But
I'm
also,
all right.
Rex, you have that equity. The first time you're safe. Nothing happened to you.
Right.
The second time, nothing happened to you.
Yeah.
So you have to remind yourself and say, fuck you to that abuser. No, I'm safe. I'm good. And I was getting my heart checked out for 12 years for a heart attack. 12 years.
Wow.
Until I heard Terry Bradshaw talk about it one day with us. And I'm like,
I'll be there.
That's what I have. That's it. Like, thank God I work with Terry. And he's been suffering it for years. And here's Terry still going fine.
That guy was everything to us growing up. Everything. Correct? Hearing somebody like him be vulnerable, man, it just almost makes me want to cry. That's a big time human being right there.
So I want you to know the same thing.
Thanks,
and
bud.
So the crazy shit for me is I wrote the book, and where I used to have them every week now, I think my book, Unbreakable, I think it was my way of journaling. And after I journaled, I haven't had them nearly as often. I do when I get in. I went last year with Jimmy Johnson and our producer Bill Richards to Cowboys-Chargers game where Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones kind of made peace, and that's what led to Jimmy's Hall of Fame. And my producer doesn't knows this. Jimmy, I didn't say anything to, but the moment we walked on the field, boom, I had one of the worst panic attacks I ever had. But I don't remember much of being on there.
Oh, but you were able to manage?
Yeah, I had to manage it. I went
a
on
live hit?
Gatorade.
Was
no,
it
it was
live?
just being there.
Oh, shit.
But it lasted for 40 fucking minutes.
Oh, my God. That had to seem like a whole day.
Yeah, and I don't remember saying certain things. So I asked people after, hey, did I seem okay? Like, yeah, you seem fine. So I'm like, great.
Good.
So at least I know I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want you to know that, man.
Thanks, buddy.
You're safe. And, for me, I realized writing the book ended up being cathartic in that way where, for the most part, I don't have them. That was the first one I had. I didn't have any on TV last season.
Wow. That's
I don't
great.
think I had any the season before. I had something after a show.
That's awesome.
But I don't know when they come. Mine usually come in the middle of the night. It's crazy. I wake up and I'm like,
it's terrifying.
And grab my heart, like, oh my God, yeah, it's terrifying.
Is it anxiety too?
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Well, that's what causes it. It's the anxiety.
Yeah.
And then you try and figure out what it is and like, all right, what's causing this? And what's the root? And I guess that's where the journaling comes in. Yeah.
So the sports stuff is kind of crazy too. And I talk about this in the book. I've never thought this was weird my whole life until I started writing the book. So when I was in the third grade, my dad coached basketball. He was a professional basketball player, but then he coached basketball. And so I've grown up around it my whole life. Third grade championship game at our middle school. I go out, we walk into the gym's packed. It's, 200 people there maybe. And I look in the stands and my dad has brought his team of high school kids who are my idols. Right. They're like pro players to me. And I go out for the jump ball and threw up right at half court.
Mm.
Embarrassed,
That's embarrassing.
fine,
Yep.
embarrassed, kids all around, everything.
Yep.
They cleaned it up. I felt like fucking Superman and went at it. We win going
You got
away.
that anxiety out. Yeah.
Okay, so my dad, who coaches, I would be in the locker room all the time, halftime, before the games, all that stuff. You know, he's a legendary cusser. He's Bobby Nightlight.
Mhm.
But after he'd give his pregame talk, he'd go straight into the stall, stick his finger down his throat, and throw up. Most of the times, dry heave. Hadn't eaten for day or hours and whatnot. Right. After I threw up in the third grade, every game I played after that, from third grade through my second year in the NBA, I stuck my fingers down my throat to throw up before the game. And once I did, I felt great. And I did it, 20 minutes before the game. And if I didn't just do it naturally, so it became a thing. I would throw up before, and I would try to get over that because we're playing 82 games a year in the NBA. It's hard. And I'm trying not to eat too much, and I'm run down. And so every now and then I would not do it. And I can remember Del Curry, Muggsy Bogues, my early teammates, and two of my best friends, looking over to me during a game, in the first quarter, and I've missed my first four, and they're like,
go
"Did
throw
you
up.
go fucking throw up? Please go throw up." So, but again, that's and I realized just recently that I do this. My friends have always joked with me about when I brush my teeth, I gag. I'll brush my teeth, I brush my tongue, but I make myself gag like I'm throwing up. And I realized not long ago that I do that before I go out in public. I do it. It's just
that's a tool for you.
It's a tool for me.
Great.
But is that okay?
Fuck yes, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Whatever works. We're not all the same.
But
if it, listen, here's why it's not only just okay, it's amazing. Okay.
Right.
All you're doing is making yourself gag to be able to go out there and be human, right?
Right.
Where in the past you would take Oxycontin and Vicodin.
Right.
Well, if that ain't a fucking win, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do. We're here to give people ideas and take shame away and tell them, no, this is fine. This is great. By the way, baddest dudes on the planet are fighters, right? You're sitting back.
Oh, athletes are weird, man.
But I'm saying fighters back there, and you're like, these are the toughest guys in the world.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many guys are back there shitting their pants off, fucking squirting, puking. Like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have fear, right? It's, and whatever you could do to make it not cripple you, that's your superpower. So use what you have right there. Man, I picked up a fucking great tool where it don't have to use drugs. Right. I think that's incredible. And for that, you got to love yourself up.
All right.
We don't love ourselves up and up when we find things like that.
Yeah. I'm trying.
I found laughter. Like if I'm having a real bad one on the show, so I can't stop on live TV and go, wait guys, oh shit, I'm going through it.
Yeah.
So as I'm on TV having a panic attack, I'm literally talking to the voices in my head saying, no, not today. I'm safe. Calm down. And I'll push out a joke as fast as I can, good or bad.
Yeah,
but at the moment I start laughing, everything regulates for me.
Trying to trick yourself.
For me is that gag good. Reflex from you. Yeah.
Good. That's good stuff.
Before I let you go again, tell people the name of the book.
The name of the book is "It's Hard for Me to Live with Me."
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to start making sure that you learn to love to live with yourself now.
Thanks, buddy.
That's it, right? Because the more you'll be able to do that, bro, the more you'll be able to help people. I literally one day I'm sitting there and I'm meditating, and I'm in Thailand. I went on this mind, body, spirit thing. And I always felt I'm a big God guy, and I know God loves me, but I felt all these things in the universe were against me, and I've never had love. I'm finally getting married. I've been married once before. It wasn't great, but I've met the love of my life. I'm 54. So it's like, man, if I didn't have this little talk with God and the universe, it was almost like I'm in this meditation for like 3 days and working with these monks, and it's like I'm sitting there, and it's like God and the universe said, hey, no one's against you. Like, we all love you, but we needed you to feel this pain so you could help others through theirs.
Wow.
And at the same time, we need you to see we made all your other dreams come true to keep you afloat. And
Wow.
same for you,
Thanks,
right?
buddy.
So you've been in this pain. So now it's time to like, man, I'm going to love myself up for my scars. I'm going to love myself up that I've been through this, and all the people that you help and all the people I help. That's better than any 3-pointer you could hit.
Thanks,
That's better
buddy.
than any scoop I could deliver, right? But we
Yeah.
got to start learning to to give ourselves gratitude,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because then we'll help a
Yep.
lot more people.
Agree.
Right?
Agree.
All right, my last question for you. I ask every guest this. Give me the one moment, and you might have said it already, so you could say it. Tell me if we said it. The one moment that should have broken you and could have broken you, but didn't, and as a result, you came through the other side of that tunnel stronger for it and unbreakable forever.
I think it had to be the last time in rehab that we just spoke about. You know, looking back, I guess, and from the outside looking in, you could maybe see where somebody might give up. And I was so fortunate that I had so much love when I screwed up, so many people that I felt I had let down. My kids, starting with my kids, my ex-wife, my friends' kids who looked up to me. And I felt a responsibility to try to make them proud of me again. And I understand that some people don't, make that effort, or, don't even get the chance to make that effort. I had the chance. I was still alive, and felt like I was at rock bottom. And I, I have to say it's for different reasons that I'm proud of it. But as much as anything, I was able to start speaking to groups and whatnot. And one day I was in my head, and I think I did talk about this in the book. One day I was in my head and I just wanted to get to my workout. I didn't want to talk to anyone. It was not in that mood. I wasn't in that headspace. I've learned that I can't go out like that. Like, I have to understand people are going to come up, and I have to, cope with that. But got to the gym, and this kid was at the front desk, 18, 19 years old. And he said, "Hey, Rex Chapman." And I said, "Yep." And I kind of just kept walking. And I started swimming. I was finishing my swim, and I started thinking about it. What a dick I was for just blowing this kid off. And I came back out, and he was getting my attention again. He said, "Hey, Mr. Chapman." And I said, yeah, how are you?" And he said, "Listen, I just wanted to tell you, you spoke at a thing about 6 months ago, and my dad was there, and he hasn't had a drink in 6 months. And I
Wow.
just can't thank you." And I started tearing up, felt like the biggest asshole in the world. This kid just wanted to share something that was really, really important to him. And, in that moment, I think I kind of realized, all right, well, this can help other people.
Yeah.
It can help other people.
Good, man. And that's why you got to love yourself up. So you could
Yeah.
feel these more. And that's our equity, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Right.
Agree.
Those of us who are able to do this, we can make a change. Man, I'm proud of you, dude. I appreciate you, brother. Rex Chapman, man, you definitely are unbreakable. Thank you for joining the Unbreakable Mental Wealth Podcast, my dude. And keep inspiring, man. Everybody get his book.
Thanks, Jay. You do the same. Keep rolling. Let's get together in Phoenix.
Absolutely. God bless you, brother.